Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of Macmillan Education and mine from Warsaw, Poland. My name is Maria. So firstly, I'd like to ask you if you can see and hear me well. Excellent. If you could let me know in the chat box. I can see that you are letting me know, so I hope everything is fine. So just a brief introduction to today's webinar. Technical issues. Make sure you have a stable internet connection. Broadband internet access would be the best. And if you have any technical issues during the webinar, try logging out and logging in again. That should help. So now let me introduce our today's speaker, Małgorzata Mróz, Gosia.
Hi, hello.
So she's been teaching English for over 10 years now, and she loves challenging herself as a teacher, so you will never see her giving the same lesson twice. She is interested in developing cognitive skills in young learners. She also designs low prep activities that can easily be adjusted to any level. She's a passionate teacher, but also learner, so she knows the other perspective. Yes, so today she's going to give you a presentation entitled Beyond Grammar on Developing Young Learners' Cognitive Competence. So Gosia, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. I see, hi, okay. I see we have a lot of people from many countries. I'm very happy that it's very international because I'm also a passionate traveler. I have seen some people, there are some people from Mexico. I have never been to Mexico. I have been to Ukraine. I have been to Kazakhstan too. So I know some places you're mentioning here. I have never been to Russia, but it's my dream to go there. Anyway, so I'm very happy to talk about one of my greatest passions when it comes to teaching. Before I continue, I would just ask you to let me know if you can hear me. Just want to make sure that my microphone works fine. So you can, yes, very well, excellent. Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you, Irina. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to start with a short anecdote. Now, German, French, and Latin. I guess some of you might know these languages apart from English. German and French are the languages that we can speak. Latin is, of course, a language we can read and study. We don't really speak it, although there are some people who actually they're trying to invent some new words in Latin. Anyway, throughout my learning experience at school, I have been taught all of these three languages. So first, when I was in primary school, I had 1 year of Russian. That was a long time ago. But it was just 1 year, and I was, 11 years old, so I could hardly remember it. But then for 3 years in secondary school, which is in Poland, you go to secondary school when you're 12 for 3 years. I learned German, or actually I was learning German, and then in high school, so age 15 to 18, 19, I had to study French. Both German and French are beautiful languages, and then I also, while studying French, I had to study Latin. Now, the problem is that, I wish I could say that I spoke all of these languages now, but I don't. I don't speak, I don't understand any of these languages. And here's a problem, so many languages, so many possibilities. I also travel a lot. Why, after, having spent so much time on learning them, I couldn't master them. I couldn't understand any of them. Now, I thought that maybe German, French, and Latin, maybe they're just difficult. You know, maybe English is easier, that's why I speak it. Maybe German is just not for me. Maybe French, you know, the French pronunciation, maybe I can't master it. But then, not many years ago, but some years ago, while I was traveling, I went to Armenia. And it changed my life completely, not only as a person, but mostly as a teacher, because I decided to learn the language that looks like this. I don't know, maybe there are some Armenian people here, maybe there are some people who can speak Armenian. If you do not speak Armenian, you can see that the language is quite challenging. The alphabet seems quite difficult. The grammar is totally different to what I know from English or Polish, which is my native language, or Russian that I'm learning. Still, I don't know why. I mean, I know why, I'm going to tell you, but for some reason, I managed to learn it. And now I am a fluent speaker of Armenian language. Now, how did that happen? How is it possible that I couldn't learn German, French, or Latin, but I managed to learn Armenian, which has a totally different system, a totally different alphabet? And I was thinking a lot about it because I learned it very quickly. It took me 1 year to start speaking fluently in Armenian. And I thought that when I was learning the other languages as a child, as a teenager, I had to learn adjectives, nouns, verbs, adverbs, you know, a lot of, I had to memorize a lot of irregular verbs. And to me, English was a subject at school. I was learning maths. I also had to learn, you know, Polish literature. I also had to learn physics, science, history, and English. It was and no English, sorry, and the language, but English too. It was just one of the subjects, and I didn't really understand that I need this language to become a part of a social group, to make friends. I knew how to solve my tasks in a book. I didn't know what to do when I was left alone in the world and I had to speak to the people. And Armenia was different. I learned Armenian because I wanted to communicate with the local people because of my travels. So sometimes, like, my main motivation to learn as an adult person was to communicate, and sometimes it was just crucial because without knowing the language, I couldn't get from one place to another because I couldn't understand anything and no one spoke English, and back then I did not speak Russian. So it was like a double motivation, you know what I mean, which I wish I'd had when I was learning French or German, but no one told me. I didn't know. I had to find out on my own at the age of 20 plus, 20 something. So when we talk about cognitive skills, which are the main interests for us today, we talk about the ability of an individual, and in case of this webinar, a child, a young learner, to perform various mental activities. So things, you know, that happen in their brains, in their heads, and those activities are connected with, like, most closely connected and associated with learning and solving problems. So today I'm going to tell you about my methods of teaching English as a foreign language, but also teaching children how to learn it and how to use it in real life and how to make it more effective, how to help children so they do not discover it like I did at the age of 27, but they discover it very early. And it will definitely, well, I'm sure it makes their learning process better and they're more enthusiastic. And it also makes our work easier as teachers because the children, they want to come to our lessons and they want to know how to use the language and how to become a speaker, because they understand that the language is a tool for them to communicate with the whole world, especially when it comes to English, which is such an international language. English, I believe, Russian, and Spanish, right? These three. So, but we're English teachers, so today we're going to focus on English. I've seen a lot of people saying hello to everyone, now like a group hello, once again. Okay, so when it comes to learning a language, we're going to focus on 4 aspects today. So first of all, learning new vocabulary, which, as you know, is very important, and this is what we start with. With very little children, with young learners, we learn, we learn colors, we learn names of animals, and things like that. We will also talk about the skill that needs to be developed, finding general and also specific information. I will tell you more, I will give you more details later on. We will talk about how to teach children how to analyze and interpret visual content, pictures, graphs, infographics, and so on and so forth. And also the most important thing, in my opinion, which is learning how to, or teaching children and them learning how to express their own opinion, because I think we can all agree that this is what we need a language for, to communicate with people and to say what we think, to tell people how we feel, and to be able to do it in a foreign language. So let's start with learning a new vocabulary. We all do it, right? We all teach it, and our children have to learn it. Your students, do they have problems learning? I have noticed that young learners, they learn so fast. Like, sometimes I prepare 3 lessons to practice one set of vocabulary, and then after 1 lesson they already know it, and they don't want to learn it anymore because it's boring. They already know it, they use it correctly. I don't know if your experience is similar. I have more and more students like that. Not all of them are like that, of course, but anyway, I'm going to start with a challenge. So here there are 3 words in Armenian: matit, which means a pencil, and kanon, which means a ruler, and gurich, which means a pen. Now, if there are any Armenian speakers here, I'm very sorry, but you cannot really perform this task. But I believe most of you do not speak Armenian. I hope I chose this language, so I'm hoping that you don't really speak it. So your task is to remember these 3 words. I'm going to give you, let's say, 1 minute to try to memorize these 3 words: matit, kanon, and gurich. Now, there is one rule: you cannot write it down. Okay? Just, without writing, just remember the words. Let's imagine that you are very, very young learners, very young children. You cannot write yet. You don't know the letters. Okay? So let's say 30 more seconds. 3 words: matit, which is a pencil; kanon, which is a ruler; and gurich, which is a pen. Right? There are new people joining us, but they can also take part in this challenge, this activity. Okay? So matit, kanon, and gurich. Okay? Let's wait for 10 more seconds. Now remember, do not write down these words. Okay, and now I'm going to show you pictures of objects, and I would like you to write their names in Armenian in the chat window. So what is this? Can anyone say? Let's see. Canon! All right, you remember. Good. All right, and this? All right, yes, we had Canon, and now we have matit. You see, you already speak some Armenian. Good. You can go to a shop and you can already point to a ruler and a pencil. What's this? Yeah, gurich. Right? Good. Garich, gurich. Yeah, it's, the Armenian alphabet is different. They have different letters. So this is just a kind of like loose, very vague transcription. But yes, it is gurich. Gurich, gurich, gurich. Excellent. Good. And I guess you still remember this, yeah? So we have kanon, matit, and gurich. Excellent. Now, when you were memorizing, first words in Armenian, good. These are good words to start with. Try some more. So when you were memorizing these words, we have got 155 people attending this webinar now, and I'm sure you use different methods to remember them. like you memorize them maybe by just repeating it in your head all over again. Is there anyone who tried repeating these words? Like, you know, you repeat a word 10 times. Yeah? Anastasia, right? You tried it. And also Alina, Marina, yeah? A lot of drilling. Yeah, we say drilling. So then you repeat, and you remember. Is there anyone who tried a different method maybe? Canon like Canon. Great, you see, this is a different method. Canon sounds a little bit like this company that produces cameras and, yeah. So also, tools for writing. So you put these objects in one group. You make associations. This is exactly how I chose to learn Armenian. I was just making associations. They were very silly, but some words reminded me of other words. And I remember once I had a chance to learn some Turkish, and I wanted to say I will miss you. And in Polish, when you say it in Turkish, in Polish it sounds a bit like I am riding a donkey. So I imagine myself on a donkey, leaving a city, saying goodbye to people, saying I will miss you. But I still remember it. And also, someone painted it, so making pictures. Exactly. So you see, we already have 4 different strategies here to memorize these words. And someone said, Tatiana, you said that associations, that not many words have associations. I have to disagree. I believe all the words can be associated in some way. But sometimes I do agree, Tatiana, sometimes it's very difficult to find an association. But then this is a perfect opportunity to use a different method. Drilling, for example, or making pictures, right? And also, Mihail, you ask if canon comes from Greek. Very possible, because Armenian is sometimes a bit similar to Greek. They seem to be having common roots. Okay, so we have a lot of learning strategies already. One of you mentioned making Pictionaries, so drawing these words. Now here we have an example of a Pictionary that comes from a book Academy Stars. The word pencil written inside the word, the picture of a pencil, and the word ruler written inside a picture of a ruler. This is one idea. For children who can already read and write, I ask you not to write, but we also teach children who can do it, right? So especially in countries, I believe Kazakhstan now, as far as I know, you're undergoing some changes, and there will also be Latin alphabet introduced. But in Russia or Ukrainian, you use a different alphabet. So when you teach English to children, they have to learn the language, but they also have to learn a new alphabet. So this is a great idea. So they see the letters, they see the words. This is what I did with my students. So we also made pictures, but they had to put the objects in the first letter, right? So if it's a pencil, the P letter, you know, the leg of it is in the shape of a pencil, and the same with the ruler. If it's a ball, you know, the first letter, B, has got a ball written inside its belly, right? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of fun. Children also, when they learn the alphabet, they remember letters better, because to Polish children, in Polish we use a Latin alphabet, so they are more or less familiar with it. But I believe that with Cyrillic or Cyrillic, right, with the alphabet you use in Kazakhstan, Russia, or Ukraine, you know, they also have to remember shapes and stuff, and you can show them this strategy so they can use it. And what other strategies can we talk about? Drawing words, but also if your kids can already write words down, you can ask them to write words and cover them with their hand, and then they just move their hands a little bit, one letter after another, and they try to remember the word. Okay, so they say, for example, m, ma, matit. Okay, matit, a pencil, remember? Or g, Gerich, a pen. Okay. Now, what I like about this strategy is that you do not need to prepare anything to perform it. The only thing you need is a piece of paper and a pen, which we all have. So there's no extra, you don't have to buy anything. And sometimes I know that some schools have some budget for buying extra materials, but I know that some schools don't, and my school doesn't pay for extra materials. So I'm trying to limit down the amount of things I have to spend money on, because I don't always have such an opportunity. Also, recalling words based on their first syllable. So you as a teacher say the first syllable. For example, I say ka, and you say non, because we remember that canon is ruler, right? Speaking about Armenian. And then, as you sit in a circle, I'll talk about dictionaries in a second. Sitting in a circle, you can ask the next child to start with another syllable. So then a child has to think about a word, think about the first syllable, and you go in rounds. And I see that, yeah, some of you, Anastasia, use this recalling method. Kids are very competitive in a way, in a positive way. They like competing, they love games, and this can be easily turned into a running game, or you can say, every time you say a word, you have to jump because, they have a lot of energy. I have lessons with kids in the morning. They have a lot of energy. They have just eaten their breakfast and, so we do a lot of jumping and running. Now, Pictionaries. Pictionary is a dictionary with pictures. Someone asked about it. So instead of writing words, you just make pictures, or you make pictures and write words. Also, some of you said that all of these words we learned in Armenian were words that were somehow associated with, writing and some stationary objects. So grouping them, putting words in group. So look, if I learn a word fish in English, I put it in two groups. It can be an animal, it can be food, because we can have fish, like pet fish, and we can also eat fish for dinner, right? So you teach a child to, instead of thinking that I am learning about food and I know the word fish, to think like that. Oh, I have the word fish, I can put it in food and I can put it in animals, right? Or maybe chair, the word chair, or a table. It can be connected with rooms and houses when we teach them about bedrooms, bathrooms, and living rooms. But we can also put it to, school objects. When we learn about a school, we learn the word chair and table, or we teach as teachers, kids learn. So you teach them how to group things on their own. Think about as many groups as you can to put this word in. So today we are focused on young learners. We will not talk about teenagers really, but I believe you can apply the same methods, right? But today the focus is young learners. Okay, and making Pictionaries, making pictures. Okay, and mind you, speaking about teenagers, yeah, that was a question. I still use Pictionaries for myself when I learn Armenian, when I'm studying. So yes, sometimes we teach bigger groups. I teach small groups of children, mostly around 4 to 6 children, but I also have bigger groups up to 25 children. And we do the same thing. No matter the size of the group, we do the same thing, recalling. For example, I say, I don't know, Tay, and the whole group shouts, bull. And what I like about it is that sometimes you have students who are a little bit weaker and a little bit shyer, and they can kind of hide in a group. No one knows that they didn't remember the word, but they hear the word, they hear other children shouting, so they drill it, they try to memorize it, but they do not become shy or frustrated because they don't remember, right? Okay, so when it comes to mic closer, yes. Okay, so when it comes to all these cognitive skills that we use, that we want to develop in our learners, we add more and more along the course, along the learning process. So we start with very simple things such as drawing, guessing words, grouping, making Pictionaries when kids cannot write yet, right? Then, as a child grows older and bigger and gains more skills such as writing or reading, we can add writing words in alphabetical order. And finally, when a child is already quite I have the sound is bad. I have a microphone very close to my mouth now. Okay. Hang a sec. Okay, so let's wait for a second. Oh, but I also see some pluses. Okay, so maybe if the sound is bad, it might be the internet connection. You can try to log out and log in again. All right, so and then as a child grows older, we can add some really advanced methods that we also use as adults learners, such as spelling, which is extremely important in English because English is a funny language because you never really know how to read things, right? So you don't really know how to read something unless you know the word. In Polish, it's different. Children are used to the fact that what they see is what they read. I think it's pretty much similar in Russian and Ukrainian, right? I'm not sure about Kazakh. I don't have much knowledge about. It's a Turkic language. I don't really know much about Turkic languages, but it occurs in many languages. In English, it's different. Kids have to learn it, and sometimes they struggle with it. So the thing I like about the examples I'm going to be giving you from Academy Stars is that the more we learn, the more cognitive skills are being developed. So they're adjusted to the age of children. Now, when it comes to CCQs, let me just give you one example because this name might sound a bit mysterious. Asking CCQs is asking concept checking questions, which basically means we learn a word, for example, a table. And I want to make sure that my students understand the word. So I say, how many legs has it got? And they say 4. And the tables in our classroom, are they brown or white? And they say white. We have white tables, so I know they understand, right? Or if you teach a word such as banana, you say, what animals eat bananas? And the children say monkeys, right? So we check if they understand the concept of the word. Or when I teach about feelings and emotions, I say, when I teach the word, for example, sad, I ask, when you cry, how do you feel? And they say sad. So I understand, I know that they understand the connection, right? That they understand the meaning of the word, right? So it's basically asking questions that check understanding of the content, what the word means, not what it looks like, not if it's a noun or a verb, but what it means, right? And this is a crucial skill because we start with young learners, but they will keep learning when they grow up. And at some point, they will have to learn on their own and they will face many challenges in a language. Now, they get a lot of help from their teachers, but at some point, they will start reading books in English. They will start reading some articles on the internet and they will see words that they don't understand. And they have to find their own methods to learn it. And I'm talking about words that, such as disinterested and uninterested, that look similar, but the meaning is different. Some very long words, such as anti-disestablishmentarianism, which is the longest word in English. And it's just an example here. It's a bit of a joke, but you know how many multiple syllable words there are in English. They will start watching films, and while watching a film, they will hear a word croissant or croissant with English pronunciation that comes from the French language, and they have to find a method to learn a French word that they use in English. They will find the word froyo. Do you know what froyo is? It's a new word. I think it entered dictionaries last year. Does anyone know what froyo is? Maybe you have some ideas? Huh? It's a new word. I learned it. I've learned it recently because I didn't know it. Froyo is a frozen yogurt. Now, in many places, frozen yogurts are very popular now. Instead of ice cream, people eat frozen yogurt. So froyo, right? Um, and do you know what a listicle is? It's also a new word. It did not exist a couple of years ago. It's a very new word. Any ideas what a listicle could be? Right. So a listicle is this type of an article that you can find on the internet, or maybe sometimes in newspapers or magazines, but mostly on the internet. For example, um, 5 things to do in Kazakhstan in the summer, or 10 great buildings to see in Ukraine, or 5 types of food to try in Russia. So it's an article, but it's in the shape of a list, right? 1, go to St. Petersburg and do this. 2, eat a mante in Kazakhstan. And 3, go hiking in Ukraine, right? So you see, we cannot teach the children all of the words because there are new words all the time, right? And people create them. Many years ago, there was no such word as, for example, to unfriend someone on Facebook. It's a new word because of Facebook, Odnoklassniki, or any other social media. You can become a friend with someone. You can unfriend a person, right? So that's why it's so important to teach the kids, like develop their cognitive skills along with teaching them the language. So not only do they learn the language, but they also learn how to learn it. And learning the new vocab is just one thing. But there are another things, another challenges that we as teachers have to face and our students have to face, such as finding general and specific information in a given text, also in a test, right? But in a text, or in any sort of text, like listening to, right? Recorded or written. So this is an example that comes from Academy Stars, and here we have some words we are learning, we are teaching our children, our students. So it's fingers, glove, hand, string, and there are also other words they already know. They're probably already familiar with some colors, and the task here is to find specific information in the printed text. Now, we are talking about very young learners now. We are talking about kids who are 6, 7, 8 years old. So we want to support them as much as we can. But at the same time, we already want to start showing them how to find information in a text. Of course, we have to adjust our method to their age. So this is my idea. There is a text. These puppets are in water. They've got red, green, and blue umbrellas. What I do is I either print it out. I take a picture of a book printed out, but most of the time the children have their own books. So I just put little pieces of paper, and I cover the most important words in a text, which we call the keywords, right? So for example, here my keyword would be umbrella or umbrellas. I ask the children to look at the picture and to try to find the answer in the picture. So what word is missing here? What can be missing? Right? So I kind of make a gap fill activity, but they search information not in the text but in the pictures. So they start to understand that sometimes if they need to find something in a text, they have to look around, because around the text there might be pictures that will help them understand. There might be some small comments, small captions. There might be some symbols. So this is what they start doing. And yet another thing I do is that I only show them a picture. Sometimes in some schools we have projectors, so I just take a picture, like I put it on my computer and then I just screen it so they only see the picture. And I ask them to write as many things they can see, as many things as they can see in the picture. So they only see this doll and what's around it, right? And they write a doll, hands, legs, green, because its dress is green, white hat, blue eyes, strings, fingers, you know, they can do it in groups, right? And only then, exactly, it does stimulate the imagination, and also it teaches them observation. And then in each group, sometimes I do it individually, sometimes in groups, it depends on the size of my class. They have their piece of paper and the words they have written, only these words. And then they see the text and they see like a gapped text, so the one below, and they see if they can fill the gaps with their words. Okay? So if they wrote water, is there any place here where I can put water? Not really. But they also wrote strings. Is there any place here I could put strings? This puppet has got a green and white strings. No, it's not a good place. The puppet has got strings. You can move the arms. Yes, good. And we have one more gap. I have a word fingers, hat, and dress. And I have one gap. This puppet has got a green and white fingers. A green and white hat. No. A green and white dress. Yes, it's a dress. So you see, children do not get the whole text from me. Before they do it, they work on the text before they see it. And this teaches them that finding information, keywords in a text can be done before you actually start reading it. Of course, not always. Not all the texts will have pictures, but many of them do. So this is how we work on it. And when it comes to more advanced students, and this is grade, as far as I remember, this is grade 3 or even 4, grade 3, I think. So the kids are what, 10 years old, 10-ish, right? So here the text is a bit longer. How about now? Is it better? Yes? Yes, no. Fine. Okay, I think we've got our sound back. Okay, I'm very sorry. I must have, I don't know, unplugged it by accident. Okay, good. So okay, how about now? Okay. Now it's good. Yes? All right. So you know what? Okay. So, excellent. So many people say it's good. Excellent. Okay. So we have children that are a little bit older here. And they have to find really specific information in the text. Look, they have to find the colors
Also, how long is wolf's body? Also, how long is their tail? So look, we have two lengths. So if they see a number in a text, they still have to understand the text to know which one is about the body, which one is about the tail. They have to see how many teeth they have and how fast they can run, how many wolves you have in a pack, and what do wolves eat. So quite a lot of facts to be found in a text. Not easy, because again, you have to read carefully to know which number is which, and it's not only the numbers. So the way I work with it is I do not show my students the exercise on the right. So the one, wolf facts, can you see it? I do not show it to my students. It's in a book, but we cover it with paper. They do not see it, and they only see the text. And then each child gets post-it cards from me. And they get, for this activity, they need to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 words. So they only get 9 post-it cards from me. They read the text, and on post-it cards, so these, like, little yellow pieces of paper, or it can be any piece of paper, they have to decide which words from the text are the most important. And now, one piece of paper is only one word or expression. And they have to decide if, for example, a word family is important, or maybe 4 to 9 wolves in a pack is more important. Okay? So from the whole text, they choose 9 words, and then, like, most of the time I ask them to read and decide in groups because it's quite difficult. And then we cover the text. The only thing they have is their pieces of paper. And they have to decide if, with these words written on these pieces of paper, they can solve the task, which is called wolf facts, which you can see on the right. Yeah, so first of all, they have to read very carefully. They have to read all the words. They cannot skip any part. Secondly, they have to, there's this decision process, critical thinking, like which is important, which is not. And then they can see if they have really chosen the keywords, or maybe they have chosen words that are not important, and maybe they should focus on other words. So, that searching for keywords, this is something we always teach our older students, if you teach older students. And also we as adults, when we read, I don't know, a newspaper, or we study, we learn something because we have an exam at the university, we have to find key information. Sometimes we have to, I don't know, we only have 1 week to read 10 books and we have no time for it. Like, we have to find specific information. This is exactly what we want our students to do, because then at some point when they grow older and maybe we won't be their teachers anymore, they'll have to write exams. In Poland, you write a very, very big exam after primary school now, which is after 8 years of learning, and then after high school. And the exam after high school is also your entry exam to the university. You have to write it very well to get to the university. So it's really important. It's really, really important. And even if you have children who do not wish to study because they wish to work in a different field, they still, in their adult life, they will face texts. Like, you wanna have internet at home, and you need to sign the agreement. You have to learn how to find key information in the agreement so you don't pay more than you should. So we start from the very beginning. You see, this is learning, this is teaching the language, but this is teaching the language as a tool, as something that kids use in their real life. And look, if you teach your children from the very beginning how to find key information, look how easy your job becomes, like your work, right? It becomes much easier because you have students who choose a cognitive strategy, and this decision-making process becomes natural to them. So you have students with whom can work on more difficult topics, more difficult things, and you can teach them more, which is great, isn't it? The best thing about teaching is seeing your students learning new things. I think it's very rewarding, our job. You have to agree. Okay, now let's move on to analyzing and interpreting visual content. Now, let me give you an example to make it clear. Now, this graph comes from the Book Academy Stars Level 2, I believe, which is like the second grade. And so we have a graph, and it shows what children can do. So some children can swim, some can ride a bike, some can ride a horse, and some of them can sing. And we have to look at the numbers. We have to read the numbers from the graph and decide how many children can swim. So if you draw the line, you can see that 6 children can swim, and how many children can ride a horse? So we draw a line, 2 children, right? Now, this task seems very, very easy to us. We are adults. We look at it and it's obvious, it's clear. But we have seen many graphs in our lives, right? The kids haven't. It's new to them. It's like, it's a strange picture. There are some words, there are some numbers. So we have to teach them how to read it, because then in real life they will. Like, you know, our culture in the 21st century becomes a visual culture. We read less, we watch more. There's less text, more pictures. You open a newspaper, look how many pictures you have. Look how, like, you go to any website with news. We have a photo, we have a small caption. This is what we read. How often do you click on the article to read the whole one? Well, I do it sometimes, but only if I find it interesting. But mostly, I just look at the pictures to see what's going on in the world. So my idea here is to make it more personalized, to show the children that this picture is actually real life. And that's how I do it. I put flashcards or pictures. Sometimes I draw them on a board. It depends on the school, on the things I have around, like if I have flashcards or not. And the last thing I do, we have 3 activities here: watching TV, skateboarding, and riding a bike. Now, each child gets 1 colorful patch from me. Now, I have these patches because I was trying to make a blanket at home. I didn't manage to do it, so I use them at school now. But it can be anything. It can be a piece of paper. It can be their pencil case. It can be their shoe. Anything. And you tell your children, okay, choose the activity you can do, or an activity you like the most, or whichever you want to teach here, and put it above the correct flashcard. So what the kids see is actually this graph, and this graph is the same. But here they feel it, because they have an object that they put next to something that they like. They understand that this 1 square here is 1 child. They start to understand that this 1 square on this graph would be 1 child too. So they can solve this task easily, because they already know that it represents real life and real people and real children and real anything. Now, as you can see here, there is also 1, 2, 3. There are 5 patches, but there is no picture under them, right? Now, this is because while performing this activity with my kids, when I took this picture, I decided to let them put their badge in an empty space if their favorite activity is not here. If their favorite activity is, for example, what could that be? Swimming. They can put it next to the picture, because there is no swimming here. And I did it for 2 reasons. First of all, to work on some autonomy. I want my students to understand that this is real life. And in real life, if they don't like riding a bike, skateboarding, or watching TV, there are also other things to do. And another thing is that my kids, look, 5 children, it's a big group, right? And 5 children they don't like riding a bike, skateboarding, or watching TV. Look, I have got 5 children with 5 new words. I can teach them 5 new words, and these will be the words they really need in real life. Because then I ask, I use Polish to that because they don't know the words, and I ask, okay, you don't like riding a bike, you don't like skateboarding, you don't like watching TV. What do you like? And the child says in Polish, lubię pływać. I think the Russian speakers and the Ukrainian speakers, I think we can understand me, right? Our languages are quite similar. Ja lubię pływać. Yeah, I think it's like that. So, so then I say, okay, you like swimming. And I know that this child will remember the word and will learn the word because this child really loves swimming. If your child loves something, he or she is very emotional about it. So we make it very, very personal, right? So I saw some of you saying that you want to try this activity in your classroom. Do it. It's fun, it's great, and it doesn't need any preparation. You only need flashcards, or you can quickly draw pictures on the board and put magnets, put pieces of paper, put shoes if you make it on the floor, like anything, you know, anything really. Another variation, another way I perform this activity is this. If we are, for example, talking about something that's like, you know, there's a question with two answers, yes or no. For example, do you like swimming? And the red bottle means no. The purple bottle means yes. And every child takes a piece of paper, makes a paper ball, and they have to put it to a jar that is that expresses their opinion. And then if I have, let's say, the purple jar, it's full. The red jar, there are only 3 pieces of paper there, it's not full. I can see that more children like swimming than actually not, right? So then I can just show them to others, look, 10 children here like swimming, 3 children don't. Or look, in our class, more children like swimming than, for example, cycling, because, you know, on these bottles you can bring more bottles, you can put some activities, you can also, for example, ask the children, like, you know, feedback. Do you like this story from our book? Yes, no. So they express their opinion, right? We're going to talk about expressing opinions in a minute. So I think I always keep some boxes or jars. You know, when I don't know, buy shoes, I keep the box. When I buy, I don't know, tomato sauce, I also keep the glass, because then I use them in my classroom. I do not buy them. They're all recycled. So try it. Maybe every child can have a piece of paper with his or her name, and they put their names inside. Or maybe a paper ball with their name, like, you know, written around it, like you can stick a piece of paper. So it's even more personalized. It's fun. And, you know, the cool thing about it is actually you can give these bottles to a child in one lesson, and this child is responsible for collecting the answers. And then in the next lesson, another child will do it. So they're in charge, you know, they're important. And thank you, Rahima, thank you very much for saying it's pupil-centered approach. This is really important to me. I want my children, my students, to be in charge of the lesson. I do not treat myself as a teacher. I don't think I'm a leader. I like to call myself a shadow. You know, they're in the center, I'm shadowing. I teach them, but it's more about them learning, not me teaching. Try these methods, they're great. And I think they should work very well in your lessons. All right. So you have seen a graph in a book. I gave you an example. This is a real life example. You know, you work for a big company and everything is on PowerPoint, graphs, and so on, so forth. So we have to start teaching this strategy, right? We have to focus on cognitive skills, because without them, the language will become just another subject at school. There is one more thing I want to talk about today, and it's the most important thing, I believe. It's last but definitely not least, expressing opinion. Now, I will start with a short anecdote. When I was 19, I passed my exams and I went to the university to study philosophy. I was very happy about it because it was philosophy in English. I wanted to study in English. It was very important, but I didn't want to go to, like, you know, study linguistics because, I don't know, I just chose philosophy. It was many years ago. So, you know, we were learning about all these philosophers like Plato and Socrates and all of them. And I remember one day I came to the lecture and we were talking about Plato and Socrates. And my professor asked me about something like, you know, some issue with like, you know, that Plato and Socrates discussed. And he asked me, what do you think? And I said, well, Plato said this and Socrates said that. Because, you know, I learned a lot. I knew their philosophy, like their ideas by heart. And my professor said, yes, I know. I've read their works, but what do you think? And like at the age of 19, this was the moment I realized that I do not have my own opinion. I repeat other people's opinions. I repeat what I read in a book. But, you know, sometimes you read about two things. One thing is black, one thing is white. And both of them sound fine, even though they contradict each other. So I believe it's very important to teach our children to express their opinion. And the language lesson is the best opportunity to do it. Teach them the language that will help them be themselves when they learn. Teach them that nothing is black and white, that there's like the whole gray scale in between, and this is where we are. So have a look at this activity. It comes from Academy Stars. This was grade 2 or 3. I don't remember exactly. So if you have a look at it, there is a story. The story, just very briefly, is about a monkey. A monkey wanted to cross the river, but the river was very deep. So it couldn't, because it couldn't swim. But there were some elephants crossing the river. So the monkey said, hey, can I jump on your back so you can help me cross the river? And the elephant said, yes, of course. Now, the elephants had big bags with mangoes. And the monkey, sitting on the back of a big elephant, saw the mangoes and stole them, started to steal the mangoes. And then, when they crossed the river, the monkey started to run away, you know, escape with their mangoes. The elephants were not very happy about it, so they started to run after the monkey. Now, the other animals heard it and got really, really scared and started to run away from the elephants. You know, elephants are quite big, so they can be pretty scary. So the elephants and the monkey, they jump on top of a mango tree. And hundreds of mangoes fell off the tree, fell down. So now the animals were scared, were on the tree. The elephants were next to the tree, and they had even more mangoes. And that's the story. And the story is used in this book to talk about emotions, to talk about how people feel. So children listen to the story. They can watch a video, they can read it, and they have to say how the characters of the story feel. So there are lots of mangoes in the bag. Monkey is happy. There aren't any mangoes in the bag. Big elephant is angry, right? Little elephant is very sad, and so on and so forth. So the way I like to approach this activity is to discuss with the kids if monkey's behavior was good or bad. And this is the moment, and you might be surprised because we're English teachers and my lessons are all about teaching English. But my idea here is to use L1. Polish, Russian, Ukrainian, Kazakh, any, like whichever your students speak, right? So you use L1 to discuss. You get the opinions, and then you teach the language to express these opinions. Because children who are 7 or 8 years old, they don't have enough language to express their opinions. First, you need to know what they think, and you need to reassure them that they can have their own opinion, and then give them the language. Most of the time, the language is in the book, like happy, sad, angry, or scared. But ask in Polish, in like L1, right? Let them express themselves. Because apart from teaching the language, we also teach cognitive skills. And in this webinar, we're focusing on developing cognitive skills. So what I do is actually, with my kids, I make a certain code of behavior for our classroom. So things that are good to do in our classroom, for example, saying thank you, and things that are not good, for example, lying or fighting with your friends. So we use the story to talk about something more important. Also, the other activity I like to perform with this story is that, look, there is this comes from another story, I believe. It might be the same story. It doesn't really matter. It can be any story. So you watch the video, the story, right? Or you read the story, but there is no ending. And the task here is to watch a different ending and tell a friend which you like and why. So what I do here is I prepare 2 different endings to the story. The first one is the monkey says, "I'm sorry, elephant, here are your mangoes, let's be friends." The second the second ending here is the monkey shouts at the elephant, "I'm hungry, I want more mangoes, give me all your mangoes now." And the elephants have, the children have to decide which ending is better. Now, of course, if we think about it, the good ending, the happy ending, is the one in which the monkey says, "I'm sorry." And most of the children would probably choose this. But there are always these jokers in the class, you know what I mean? They would say, "Ha ha ha, the second is better. The monkey who says, 'You are not good elephants, give me your mangoes,' is better." Okay? Now, we don't want to teach some values. And we do want to say that it's not good to shout and it's not good to run away with somebody else's mangoes. But I actually am very happy when there are children who say that they like the bad ending more. Because then I tell them why. I ask them why. And they start thinking and they say, "Because it's funny." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, you're right. Maybe all the stories have good, like, happy ending and it's boring. And this bad ending is better because it's funny." Look, they express their opinion, and their opinion might be different to our opinion. Their opinion doesn't always have to be like correct, or say, like, you know, politically correct, right? Maybe they just prefer endings that are maybe not good, but at least they're surprising. So you see, this is something that is very important to me, showing children that there is no right answer here. There is no good or bad answer. There's only their opinion. And yes, they do have different, they come up with different morals. And yeah, so like you want, like, you know, most of them would choose the first option. You can make 5 different options, right? And then ask the children to make their own ending. And sometimes they would say the ending would be like, "Oh, everyone is now, you know, they're all friends." And sometimes they would make a different ending, like all the mangoes were rotten and no one ate mangoes, or, you know, like, you know, the sky's the limit. Let them write a silly ending. Let it be silly. Let it be maybe not very good, but let them express their opinion as long as they can justify it. Because to me, they can say, "Oh, the elephants are very stupid." I say, "Okay, why?" If they just call the elephant's name, say they're stupid, this is unacceptable to me. But it's very acceptable to say these elephants are a bit stupid because they should have, you know, closed their bags. You see? I didn't think about it the first time I read the story, but my kids did. They said, it's not the monkey's fault, it's the elephant's fault because they left the bags open. And maybe the monkey felt that they, you know, can take it for free. So when they share their ideas, they get some positive peer feedback. You know, like the other kids listen to their friends' ideas, they start laughing. It's fun. It's great. So try it, and let your students give feedback to the other students. Okay, autonomy, right? So we have to be finishing very soon. So we have discussed the methods of some cognitive skills to be developed while learning vocabulary, interpreting visual content, also finding key information in the text, and also expressing opinion. I don't know if you know the story of this girl. You can find the video on YouTube if you type Tesco girl. We'll not have time to watch it together, but if you type Tesco girl, you'll find it. Now, the video is very short. It shows a girl. She goes shopping to Tesco, which is a British supermarket, and she wants to buy a t-shirt. She goes to the section for girls, and the only t-shirts there are t-shirts with, like, you know, I love butterflies, I am a princess, yay, or hello, or I believe in unicorns. And then she goes to the section for boys, and all the t-shirts say, I am a hero, I love adventure, think outside the box, discover the world. And she gets very angry. She says, look, here you have some examples. And she says, why? I am a hero. I'm also a hero. Why there are no hero t-shirts for girls? Why there are for boys? Why there is a section for boys and girls? We are just children. So what she does, encouraged by her mother, she takes the boys' t-shirts and she puts them in a girls' section, because she says every girl can be a hero and every boy can be a hero. And every boy can say hello and every girl can think outside the box. Look, a very young kid, she must be like, I don't know, maybe she's 10 or 9, and she already does think outside the box. She explains her own opinion very confidently. This is what we want from our students, because we want them to grow to become independent language learners, right? Remember, the more they like the language, the more they like coming to our lessons, and they do their homework more often, right? So the outcome of developing cognitive skills along with teaching the language is a learner that is individual, is very, what's the word for words? Confident, yes, very confident. A learner who, when exposed to some new content, knows what to do with it. If there is a new word, I know how to learn it. I can make a dictionary, I can memorize it and then drill. I can cover it with my hand and guess. I can maybe, I don't know, make a puppet, or I can put it in groups. When I see a diagram, I understand that these numbers are real objects or real people. I can read it. When I see a long text as a learner, I'm not scared of it because I know how to search for key information. And when someone asks me on my, let's say, philosophy lesson at the university, what do you think? I know what to think. And I am independent enough to say, I disagree with Socrates. Like, you know, it's hard to disagree with Socrates. He's like, you know, a great philosopher, very famous, like, you know, everyone knows him. You know, it's a classic, right? You cannot, but you can say, well, I do not like the books of, I don't know, Dostoevsky, which is not my opinion, because personally I do love them, but my students can say, well, I don't like it because, or this story in a book about the monkeys, I think it's stupid. I don't like it because, right? So we also have students who are open-minded, and in this situation, they will know how to read the name of the bus station, because they know how to learn a new alphabet, they know how to learn new words in English, in our case, because we all teach English, Armenian, Russian, Kazakh, Uzbek, Tajik, Ukrainian, or any other language. So they won't be scared to take this like metaphorical bus, or in our case probably this bus, because as I said, we talk about English here. So thank you very much for attending. We have been here for over an hour, but to me it feels like 5 minutes, and I wish like I could talk about it forever. So I think my idea is for you to go to fellow teachers, to go to your friends from school and talk about it, and think how you can cooperate with other teachers, how you can develop these skills. Take your books, take the books you work with. Look at the activities, look at the exercises, and think what else can be done here to help children memorize and to help children learn better and to help children understand that the language is not a school subject. English is not a school subject. English is the greatest adventure because it helps you talk to other people and it helps you communicate with the people that don't speak your native language. So thank you very much, and thank you very much also for participating actively in this webinar. I'm sorry if there were any technical problems. I'm really sorry. Yeah, but there's also a video made, so I believe there will be you maybe get the access, or maybe you can ask your friends who had better connection. And have a very nice afternoon, very nice evening. Thank you very much. In Armenian, written below, Shnorakalutsyun. The first word I learned started kind of, hard because the word thank you has got 5 syllables. So thank you very much. Shnorakalutsyun. Спасибо большое. Dziękuję. Joksal, that's, I think, I'm not sure if it's Kazakh, but it kind of sounds a bit similar. Merci and gracias for those who are in Mexico, and keep teaching, and good luck with teaching throughout these methods, and yeah, don't give up. So thank you and goodbye.